Every time something like this happens surrounding Taylor Swift, it's like you're playing Super Smash Brothers and that screen pops up, and this time it's Damon Albarn of Gorillaz and Blur, and Taylor Swift just continues to be the dominant champ, just knocking him right on out of the ring. Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. It's time for another installment of News It or Lose It, where you get the news along with a healthy dose of my opinion. Today we're talking about Taylor Swift versus Damon Albarn, a very unexpected pairing, but Damon was doing an interview with the Los Angeles Times. It came out this past Sunday, and in there he was talking about some upcoming projects and some stuff that he's working on, some collaborations with Disney, and after seeing what he said about Taylor Swift, oh buddy, all I can say is expect to have your next works boycotted. Damon Albarn and Taylor Swift are very talented in their own way, and guess what? They're both songwriters. Now, Damon seemed to take issue with the fact that Taylor Swift sometimes has co-writers, and also falsely believes that she doesn't have tracks that she writes on her own, while also using Taylor as kind of this thing that he would push to the forefront and slam to only build up Billie Eilish right after that. Let's cut to the meat of the story here and look at the LA Times interview. The interviewer asked, "You think a lot of modern musicians are relying on sound and attitude?" And Damon says, "Name me someone who's not. She may not be your taste, but Taylor Swift is an excellent songwriter." He responds, "She doesn't write her own songs." They bluntly reply, "Of course she does, she co-writes them," and he replies very dumbly, "That doesn't count. I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I'm not hating on anybody, I'm just saying there's a big difference between a songwriter and a songwriter who co-writes. Doesn't mean that the outcome can't be really great, and some of the greatest singers, Ella Fitzgerald never wrote a song in her life. When I sing, I have to close my eyes and just be in there. I suppose I'm a traditionalist in that sense. A really interesting songwriter is Billie Eilish and her brother, Phineas. I'm more attached to that than Taylor Swift. It's just darker, less endlessly upbeat, way more minor and odd. I think she's exceptional." For somebody as smart as Damon, and for somebody who has created as many works that are perceived to be masterpieces by some, and at least enjoyed by millions, that is a really fucking stupid take. And I don't even know if it's a take because it's not based in reality. Regardless of what you think about Taylor Swift, there is one thing that she is inevitably known for, kind of the queen of this, writing her own songs. Have we missed out on what the entire past couple of eras have been about? Taylor is re-recording the songs that she wrote and is putting them out as Taylor's version. I don't understand where this is coming from, because this is such a blatant misinformed angle that I would expect better of somebody like Damon. Just to put it out there as if he knows all, oh, Taylor Swift doesn't write her songs. Couldn't be bothered to look up the credits for her albums, where you can see that albums like Red, she wrote entirely on her own. She, again, is known for doing that more often than not. Having a producer or a co-writer doesn't change the fact that a lot of the material is written by her, and some things entirely are written by her. Many songs, many albums. And now Damon to pop up here and just to say definitively that he apparently knows that Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas are just writing everything themselves, which, again, they do, but how does he so definitively know that, but also seems to know all when it comes to Taylor Swift and just, oh no, she co-writes, I know what a co-write is, she's just showing up to the studio, not writing anything. It's not like the songs and albums are her life stories. This is just so laughable. It's hard to stay unbiased in any way on this one because it's just so ridiculously stupid. And if you look over at Taylor Swift's Twitter, she popped the fuck off in response saying, @Damon Albarn, I was such a big fan of yours until I saw this. I write all of my own songs. Your hot take is completely false and so damaging. You don't have to like my songs, but it's really fucked up to try and discredit my writing. Wow. I love the follow-up response too. P.S. I wrote this tweet all by myself, in case you were wondering. That's just little chef's kiss, a little blowback right in his face on that one. No, obviously, I do not think that this has anything to do with Taylor Swift being a woman as far as why he threw this shade out of nowhere. I think a lot of people are going to try and shape the narrative around that, but obviously, I think that Damon has a very good track record when it comes to inclusivity and writing and recording with women, and obviously he did build up another woman, Billie Eilish. Again, I don't really understand where that came from. If you ask me, it seems like a preference thing. He's letting his preferences get in the way of an actual reality of what it is. Billie and Taylor can both live in a world where they write their own songs or write them alongside a collaborator. It doesn't make them less of an artist, or I guess to you, it makes Billie more of an artist. But again, it seems like personal preference, because if you look at the interview, he's saying it's darker, less endlessly upbeat, way more minor and odd. I think she's exceptional. He's complimenting Billie because he prefers the style. And also, I don't think the man has listened to Evermore or Folklore. I mean, I'm just glancing over at the track listing for both of those albums right now, and I can think of way more songs that feel like they are done in more of this minor, darker key with a cloudy overtone than there are endlessly upbeat ones. It's like he listened to We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together and just assumed that was what she was all about all the time. This is not even to say that I love everything that Taylor has done, because you guys that have seen all of my reviews of Taylor know that that isn't true. There's eras like Reputation that I'm just simply not a fan of. But to say that Taylor Swift is not a songwriter, is not somebody who writes her own material, it's just flat out wrong, ignorant, and fucking stupid. It's belittling, and it's also beneath him to make a dig like this, and I completely understand why Taylor would respond. There's times where Taylor, I think, has responded to things in a very inflammatory way that didn't necessarily require them or need that extra stoking of the coals on the fire. But this one, it just seems like a slam dunk any way that you look at it from the Taylor Swift camp. I mean, I don't doubt that she was a fan of Damon. She leans into a lot of indie alternative territory when it comes to music that she said that she's a fan of. But this is just a mistake. So to come back and slam dunk on it, it's easy. Just take the cake here if you're a Swiftie. Oh, I'm sure there's so many disappointed Damon Albarn fans out there that are just thinking, Damon, of all fights to choose, why would you do this? You did not need to do this at this point in your career. You're established, and why can't we just be supportive of another artist instead of just saying something like you know for sure that she doesn't write? It doesn't matter, I guess, at the end of the day, because the truth is the truth, but I will pass the question over to you. What do you think about the Damon Albarn statement that he gave to the LA Times? The fact that he actually had the gall to say that and say, yeah, go ahead and publish that. I'm sure that will be fine. What do you think of the interview overall? What do you think of the statements that Taylor gave in response? Let me know in the comments section.